All right, we know college football for the Arkansas Razorbacks is just 100 days away, and college football is always one of the best things that anybody can ever experience, especially in SEC country. So let's talk a little bit more, not only about Arkansas, but about the entire college football landscape as we go ahead and welcome in friend of the show and his very first time here on the John Neighbors Show. It is Jake Crain. He is the host of Crain Company on the Daily Wire. And Jake, appreciate you joining us, man. How you doing this afternoon?
Well, John, as usual, it's good to talk to you, my friend. Congrats on everything you got going. Look, we're 100 days in now, getting close to college football season. Football season in general helps me sleep a little bit better at night. I'm ready for kickoff, like all you guys.
Yeah, well, I mean, I know we are too, and that was kind of going to be my first question. When you hear just 100 days away, college football, or at least in this case, Arkansas football on a Thursday night's coming up, I mean, what kind of feeling does that change from going from 101 days to 100 days?
You know what? Again, it makes you feel a little bit better after being in the business. I was coached in Division One for a little over half a decade, and was over a decade coaching college football. It always seems to go fast during the quote unquote off season for the people that are involved in it, right? The players, the coaches, the staff members, the administrators. But for fans, it seems to take forever. I just think once you get below those triple digits, then it starts becoming real. And at the end of the day, when you look at this season, I mean, John, the amount of changes that we're seeing in college football in the landscape overall is just massive. So I'm excited to see it. Obviously, you got the EA Sports game dropping July 19th. But overall, man, going from a triple digits to double digits, then to single digits, and then I get to wake up on that glorious day and hear that toe meet that leather.
It's going to be amazing, man, and we can't wait for it. And of course, here in Arkansas, I'd like to say that fans are super pumped over across the board, and they're so excited about year 5 of Sam Pittman. But I just don't really want to say that because I know that that's not totally true. I mean, you're coming off of a 4-8 season, and some fans may have some excitement, but just not at what it has been before. But what do you just make of the current state of the Arkansas Razorback football team heading into this season, and now especially where you have 2 more teams in the SEC, and they're a team that not really many people are looking at, nothing exciting about them. Just what do you make of the state of them right now?
Well, look, I think, and sometimes I catch some backlash from opposing fans of the teams I'm talking about, that the standard should never be lowered, right? It's time for Sam Pittman and this Razorback program to take that next step that we all thought they were going to take a lot earlier when the way he kind of came on the scene. And Arkansas has everything you need to have a winner. They have everything you need to have elite success, the resources, the tradition, the location, all of those things. And Sam Pittman, it felt like, and John, I'm sure 99% of your audience agrees, the Sam Pittman felt incredible, from how he handles himself, kind of the country guy, how that fit into Arkansas. But it hasn't come to fruition yet. And it hasn't come to fruition in a place where it'd be the last place I thought it wouldn't. And that's up front. That's the difference in Arkansas. We can talk about KJ Jefferson. We can talk about the skill position, but Sam Pittman should be superior to other places when it comes to the line of scrimmage. One, because he knows how to evaluate and bring guys in that can play at this level. We saw what he's done in his track record, but just the toughness that he exudes. That's been the most disappointing thing. It's one thing to lose, but it's another thing to lose being bad at what you should be the best at. If you're a team that shoots the three-pointer really well, or has a coach that believes in shooting the three, and you don't make a lot of threes, well, people are going to be pretty pissed off about it. So at the end of the day, the fit's nice. Sam Pittman's a great guy. When we go to SEC media days, he always talks to us. He's very transparent. But look, this is about winning, and he hasn't done the amount of winning that Arkansas fans, number one, expect, and number two, deserve. And when I look at this team and I look at this league, it's not getting any easier around you. And while I do think Taylen looked pretty good in the spring game, a little bit more of a nuanced thrower than what I expected, I don't think Arkansas is going to be good enough up front to reach the level that Arkansas fans expect in year 5. And, again, it's like we say on the show, if I want to make everybody happy, I'd sell ice cream for a living, but that's not my job. My job is to analyze what's going on. So everybody's 0-0 right now. Everybody's excited. Maybe this is the year it turns around. But when I look at the dominoes and the way they're lined up for Arkansas, and I look at that schedule, and I look at the 2 monsters that are coming into the league, it doesn't smell like the cake's going to be really good when it comes out of the oven. I hope I'm wrong. I hope Sam Pittman then figure it out. I hope it's a great year for Arkansas. I think you guys are actually going to win the College World Series this year. I don't want to jinx you or anything. But as far as a football standpoint, I don't know. It just seems like it's going to be another average year, and that's going to lead to Sam Pittman being gone at Arkansas. And John, is it Bobby P time? Are we going to go back to the world where Bobby Petrino, comes trotting back in on the white horse? Hey, guys, I made some mistakes. Well, let me show how much I want to make it up to you.
Well, first off, you can't jinx the Razorbacks because of 2018 drop foul ball in the College World Series.
That's
There's
true.
nothing that's ever going to be
That's
a more of a
true.
jinx. So don't worry about that. But two, a couple of things though that you mentioned, I wanted to get to. First off, with the Petrino angle, uh, I thought it was the most shocking thing ever to see Bobby Petrino back at Arkansas until John Calipari got hired at Arkansas in basketball. But
Yeah.
just him coming back and being the offensive mind that he has been, I know that he's a guy that's been around for a bunch of different jobs, but what do you think he can do for Arkansas, for Taylen Green, for this offense? And then stepping in, assuming that Sam Pittman has given him full reign over it, can they make significant strides and significant jumps of improvement in this upcoming season, at least offensively?
Well, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, John. I think Bobby Petrino is the best coach on the staff, including Sam Pittman, for multiple reasons. If you look just from a play calling standpoint, what Bobby Petrino does the best, and the best offensive play callers do this, they call plays to set up other plays. Bobby Petrino is putting a Rubik's Cube together in the first quarter. It's kind of a magic act. He's showing you certain things to see how you react to them, because most likely the way you react in the first and second quarter is going to be the way you react in the third and fourth quarter. Lane Kiffin does the same thing. People always say, well, how can Lane Kiffin hold up the clipboard and know it's going to be a touchdown right when the ball snapped? Well, it's easy. He set your ass up 2 quarters ago. He knew that safety was going to come down. He knew he was going to bait him. So Bobby Petrino understands that. That's the first thing you have to get. The second thing is, I think Bobby P is one of the best at adjusting to his personnel. It's not just about my system. It's about how my system fits the players that I have. Because at the end of the day, Bobby Petrino is not throwing a pass. Bobby Petrino is not making a block. The players have to do that. So he can tailor his offense and what he wants to do in critical downs, 2nd and 3, 3rd and 4, hell, 1st and 10 at the end of the day. He's going to tailor that to what his players do best. Now, in a perfect world, you want all the perfect pieces that fit your system, but we're not living in a perfect world for Arkansas right now. So I think Bobby Petrino is kind of a little bit of a fail-safe in that category as well. And every ounce in the red zone that you give Bobby Petrino, he is going to take advantage of. That's where these guys make their money, John. You don't make your money moving the ball in between the 20s. You make your money in the red zone. You make your money as an offensive coordinator in the red zone by scoring touchdowns. You make your money as a defensive coordinator in the red zone by holding people to field goals. What Bobby Petrino does out of 11 and 12 personnel in the red zone, understanding the importance of the scheme, understanding the importance of having the power forward, which is the tight end, right? That Julius Randle type, that he's too fast for a linebacker to cover, but he's too big for a true DB to cover. In the red zone is where that rears its head. Bobby Petrino understands that. And that's why I'm telling you, I think there's a scenario in which the Arkansas offense looks very competent. The defense struggles once again. Sam Pittman is let go and Bobby Petrino becomes the head coach. I think there's a legitimate chance that that could happen this year. But as far as the offense, when you got Bobby P running it, I'm not worried.
Okay, so you brought it up, and this is a thing that a lot of Razorback fans have thought about. Say if that scenario happens and Sam Pittman is let go in the middle of the year, or he steps down, whatever, Petrino takes over, things kind of at least look good and prove whatever. Do you still think that if it came to the end of the year, Arkansas should hire Bobby Petrino as the head coach? Or do you feel like that's just a nice little thing to have interim wise if something goes wrong, and then they start this new search from scratch? Like, how do you think that would play out if he took over as interim?
Well, again, I think it comes down to what the market bears, right? If that does happen and you feel like there's a coach that pops, like a Calipari, for instance, Arkansas fans thought there was no chance that, number one, Cal was really going to leave Kentucky. And that if he left Kentucky, it would actually be a legitimate possibility to go to Arkansas. I think if there's somebody out there, if that situation were to happen, that they think is a home run hire as the head coach, you go get them. But if there's not, and more than likely there's probably not going to be, John, now you look at the leverage that Bobby Petrino has. If that name, it's starting to, you heard his name a little bit last year. If they look good on offense this year, he's going to have more and more leverage. And at the end of the day, I understand how important character is. Nobody is saying that character is not important, but you know what's the most important and what can sweep stuff under the rug is winning. That's what. You win, and Bobby Petrino is able to go in there and do what I think he can do on this second go around. It's a second chance, right? It's the rise, like a phoenix from the ashes. The Bobby Petrino story. He's going to charities. He's handing out soup at soup kitchens and helping the homeless. He is redeemed in the blood. That doesn't matter as long as you win. And at the end of the day, if Bobby Petrino is the best option for Arkansas to become the next head coach, They need to hire Bobby Petrino, because at some point, these Arkansas fans got to get what they deserve now. All they do is show up and show out. I talked about this with Auburn a little bit. These fans deserve, I'm not saying you're going to win every game or you got to win a championship every 2 to 3 years, but it needs to be a whole hell of a lot better than it's been. And if Bobby Petrino is the best option in the market when you go to buy, you go buy Bobby Petrino, you get behind him, you get him a motorcycle, just keep him away from the volleyball team and everybody will be good.
Oh, yeah, that is the key, though. That is the kicker. Got to make sure that those things are established first. But we're speaking with Jake Crain here of Crain Company on the Daily Wire here on the John Neighbor Show. Now, Jake, I thought it was really interesting, something you did on your show is talking about the cult-like phenomenon of college football and how it is a cult in a way. And you even mentioned what's the most cultish thing that your team does. And immediately when I thought of Arkansas, I was like, well, calling the Hogs is pretty cultish. It's not many people say woo pig suey very often, but when you refer to college football and in the cult-like behavior and going through the cults, just what would you say is the most cult-like behavior of college football, and maybe what's your favorite thing about the cult-like behavior from college football?
Well, the beautiful thing about it is there's so many cult-like things that happen. I mean, and not just in the SEC. You look at A&M, obviously, they line up at midnight to scream into the sky in the woods about their team. God knows what the animals think, but they believe that works and it brings them together. You look at West Virginia, they burn furniture in the streets. Where I'm from in Auburn, we go buy out the town of toilet paper, not because the Salisbury steak at the local restaurant wasn't cooked all the way through, but because we're happy and we want to celebrate. Hell, an Alabama fan poisoned the tree in the middle of downtown Auburn next to the water supply where kids drink out of. At the end of the day, name me a national champion team or a top contending team that doesn't have a cult-like following, fan base, program, or whatever. It's a must. We're in an arms race. You have to have an army of people behind you. I've said it last year. I'll say it this year. Casuals don't win titles on the field or in the stands. If you do not have a rabid, crazy fan base behind you that is willing to do wild things, to call the Hogs, to show up in droves at press conferences. Hell, Michigan packs 110,000 people every Saturday of the home games. We sent 133,000 troops to invade Europe on D-Day. We're basically doing D-Day every single Saturday in Ann Arbor during a home game. But that's what makes it beautiful, right? It's your way of life versus my way of life. And if you don't believe in it that much, or you don't have that much buy-in, or you're not a cult, then you're not going to win. The only part of the definition of cult that I disagree with in the dictionary when it comes to college football is it says that it's a misplaced love. Well, in this circumstance with college football, it is not a misplaced love. These college towns, Fayetteville, Auburn, Oxford, Tuscaloosa, Knoxville, they run on the football team. These communities run on the athletic program. So I think it's the best part about college football. I think it's the reason why Buffalo and Green Bay are the two most rabid, I think, fan bases in the NFL, or at least they have the best tailgates, is because that's a college town-like atmosphere. It's not in Dallas. It's not in LA. It's not in New York. It's in our little slice of paradise. And it's like I told Texas A&M fans, if they call you a cult, good. That's why I believe eventually y'all are going to break through. Y'all want it so bad. It's just a matter of time.
Well, you bring it up, and I think that it's amazing to see how college football has changed so much just over the past 3 years especially. But you talk about an era of decades where those traditions, those cult-like behaviors, it just really defined it and was there. And now people, at least that I've talked to, fans, they're kind of worried about the current state of college football and the direction it's going because of the NIL, because of transfer portal, all this stuff. Some of them are thinking like, oh, all those great things that we loved about it, it seems to be going away and moving more towards professional type football like the NFL. Do you see it going that direction, or do you feel like, hey, the love, or at least the greatest things about college football will always remain, even if the way that the teams are put together on the college campuses are going to be different?
Well, look, I do think the more it becomes corporatized, the more it loses a little bit of that luster, that nostalgic feel. But, I went to Starkville a couple weekends ago, and again, just going off my past experience, I think what makes the college town isn't just the relationship between the fans and the players, right? Well, you decided to go from Seattle to Fayetteville. You decided to go from your big city to our little slice of paradise. That bonds us, that connects us. But when you have a rotating door of players, you can't really form that connection. But to me, John, looking back at it, I think what makes this true connection, one, is obviously the way the team plays, and the product on the field right now, schematically, athletically, physically, is the best it's ever been. But it's these towns and communities, it's the fans that make it. It's those cult-like behaviors that make it more than just a relationship between the players and the fans. So I get, the hole in the wall barbecue theory. What makes the hole in the wall barbecue places so good is that they're not these big, huge corporate, chain restaurants. I understand that, but I think there's so many other things that are going well for college football right now. And that connection between the fans and the school, right, especially on game day, I don't see that going away anytime soon. And to me, that's the engine that drives kind of the love of college football, or that connection or that drive.
Well, Jake, I know another big story that happened, which worked out perfectly to have you on the show here today, was dealing with college football, something that has nothing to do with Arkansas, but still pretty fascinating in the landscape of college football. And that is the story of Jaden Rashada, who was the former quarterback that was going to Florida. There was this big NIL stuff happening. Of course, he didn't end up there, and it was pretty dramatic. But the latest is that he has now filed a massive NIL lawsuit against Florida's Billy Napier, as well as Mega Boosters and former Gator staffer. So we've talked about it, but what do you make of this story? Is it going to set some sort of precedence? And how does this just look not only for Rashada, but also for Billy Napier and the Florida Gators?
Yeah, well, we're actually opening up the show here on Crain Company at 2 p.m. Central with it. There's no way this is going to come out being a good look for Billy Napier in Florida. Now, the University of Florida isn't named in the lawsuit that Rashada put out. It's Billy Napier, is two other individuals, and a company that the Hathcock individual owned, and I believe he sold. But I hope what comes from it is that it leads to a precedent that leads to some sort of rules. The truth is, we're molding this ball of clay as we go. There's going to be problems that pop up. I almost wonder if this was a necessity. Like, this had to happen to get this situation buttoned up. Now, we can get into the weeds of who signed what, who promised who what, is that legally binding? But if you're Florida, at the end of the day, one of two things is going to happen. One, Billy Napier is going to have a bad year, and maybe you can use this as a loophole to fire him for cause and not have to pay the buyout. A true Jeremy Pruitt situation. That gets rid of the black cloud, that gets rid of the problems associated with the school because Billy would be gone. What I find interesting in this whole thing is I think Jaden Rashada needs to become the biggest Florida Gator fan of all time. People say, Jake, what do you mean? Well, if Florida does really well and they have to keep Billy Napier, they want to sweep this under the rug, which means what? A settlement, which means Jaden Rashada may not get all of what he's wanting, but he'll get some of it. If Billy Napier gets fired for cause without that buyout money, I think this thing's going to be litigated so long. I don't think Rashada is going to end up really getting that much if he gets anything from a settlement down the road between Napier, the two individuals, and the company. So in a weird way, Jaden Rashada needs to hope Florida beats Miami, hope they have a heck of a year so he can get this settlement. They can push this on the raft and send it down the river. Now, as far as the look, Jesse Simonton had a great tweet from On3 Sports. We're having him on here shortly. He said the irony of Florida being sued by the now backup quarterback at Georgia is not only hilarious, but what's even funnier is that they'll face no penalties from the NCAA because of a lawsuit victory that Tennessee won against the NCAA earlier in the year. So, look, it's chaotic. It is. It's a mess. It's a bad look. What I'm going to say on the show is right now, Billy Napier looks like Matilda's dad, and that's never a good look when you're dealing with recruiting.
No, it's not. No, it's not. And I liked your tweet where you said no recruit is worth $13 million, by the way.
No, John, high school recruit.
Yeah.
I had some people say, oh, well, Johnny Manziel made $300 million from Texas A&M. I'm not talking about Johnny Manziel. If Cam Newton would have said, hey, Auburn, I'm thinking about coming back in 2011, he is worth $13 million. That is a proven commodity. There is no high school player coming out of high school in the sport of football that is worth $13 million. I don't care if it's over 4 years. I don't care if it's over 1 year. So it was stupid by Florida in the first place. And the way they handled it was dumb. Now, that's why you see in the NFL that second contract is way more than the first one. Why? You're a proven commodity. That's why you see players in the transfer portal getting paid more NIL money than high school seniors. Why? Because you're a proven commodity. There's projection, and then there's proven commodity. So Florida screwed up 13 different ways here, but in no way, shape, form, or fashion is a high school recruit in the sport of football, a high school recruit, worth $13 million.
Well, see, and that was going to be my point, too, is I've been saying it for especially like a place like Arkansas. Do you need to do high school recruiting? Sure. But when it comes to the NIL budget, it needs to go to that transfer portal. Just yes. Hammer that like crazy, because that, to me, not only is a better recipe for success, because most of the time you at least have proven commodities, but also at a place like Arkansas where you don't have the greatest in-state talent coming out of high school single year. And you know that there's always players looking for better deals that are going to be getting into the portal. to me, $13 million should never even be thought about. I don't know what the amount of money is for a high school recruit or what the threshold should be, but to me, go into the transfer portal if you're going to spend that big money, because that's what's going to make you successful faster, and you won't have to pay $1 million for a player that may transfer out the next year that didn't even get to play this past season.
Yeah, you want to pay $2 million for Cam Ward, go do it. Why? Because I know when Cam Ward steps on this field, what's about to happen, right? And he's played at this level. It doesn't make sense for a high school recruit. And when it comes to the transfer portal, John, here's what I say. In my opinion, the perfect recipe with the transfer portal to high school recruit, it's obviously circumstantial, right? If you just took over the job, you need to start off hot. You may need to lean more on the transfer portal early. But once you get it cooking, you need to plug holes in the ship with the transfer portal. You don't need to build the ship out of the transfer portal. I don't think it's going to work at Colorado. I think Lane Kiffin has pressed it as far as he can go at Ole Miss. We'll see how that works out. But the mercenary for hire year over year over year over year, I don't think works in this sport.
No, I'm with you on that one. And I will say the last thing before I let you get out of here, Jake, I'm not sure. So I didn't ask you about this before we started this interview. But first off, have you ever been to Fayetteville in your life?
I have driven through Fayetteville. I have never stopped in there. I've never once I went to the Starkville, went to Starkville to watch the Mississippi State baseball game, was tweeting about the dude and all that stuff. I had a ton of Arkansas fans like, bro, you got to come down to Fayetteville, come down for a game. Let us show you it's elite here at the Bomb too. So no, I got to get down there, John. And when I'm down there, I expect to have maybe a cold soda or two with you.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I was going to say that with Razorback baseball and the regionals that they're going to be in, super regionals are going to be hosting here over the next few weekends. If you have some time to make a quick trip over, let me know. We can.
I may sneak down there. I may get a sneak peek.
Yeah, we can hook you up with it, man, and it'll be a lot of fun. But hey, either way, college football though, still on the mind, still going to be a lot of fun. Yep. And Jake Crain does a great job with Crain Company of the Daily Wire. As always, man, it's good talking with you. Appreciate you joining us, and I know we'll be catching up with you later down the road. All right, my man?
Yeah, for sure, John. Thanks for having me. I'm really proud of you. You do a heck of a job. I know your listeners know that. Always rooting for you as well. I'll definitely see you during SEC Media Days, and we're going to get you on Crain Company here soon, my friend.